So 2023 wasn't exactly a hot year for the banking industry. We saw several banks collapse. We saw some serious financial instability, and we saw some mergers and firings and all that stuff take place. And from what they're projecting, 2024 isn't looking so hot either. And they're projecting for this to keep on going. But for us as Bible believing Christ followers, we need to look at this and be encouraged by it and not fear. Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Zach, the Wretched Watchman, bringing you just a little bit of news when it comes to the banking, what happened in 2023, and what is projected for 2024. And yeah, if you've been paying any attention, you understand that there's been a lot of instability, a lot of people basically saying that the crash was going to happen last year. Things did look like they were just about there, even from my perspective. But it seems that it kind of held itself together with some duct tape and toothpicks, and it's going to be carrying over into 2024. Now, I know a lot of people tend to panic when it comes to the financial stuff, especially since we see what's going on with the banking, we see what's happening with the digital shutdowns and issues where people can't access their money and whatnot. That happened a couple times last year, and we understand what's going on with the CBDCs and the adoptions and creations of those. So we see the signs of what's coming. But I'm here to assure you, do not panic. I want to let you guys know: don't fear, don't panic, don't worry, don't start going nuts with thinking of the worst possible scenarios. And I'll explain why. But let's first take a look and see what was going on with 2023. So if we head over to the hedge, which is Zero Hedge, it says banks terminate 60,000 workers in one of the bleakest years for the industry since 2008. And 2008 has been one of those uh, years that's been thrown around a lot in 2023, since that was they call it the Great Recession, but ultimately that was a planned deconstruction of the US dollar, which I've gone over how that was the plan, where they're going to use China as the engine to drag down the US dollar, which is happening fantastically. Um, but it goes on to say the collapse of three U.S. Regional banks, First Republic Bank, Silicon Valley Bank, and Signature Bank. We all watched what happened with those. Marks some of the largest failures in banking systems since 2008. Central banks contained the mini crisis earlier this year with forced interventions and mega mergers of Credit Suisse and UBS. Yes, this is definitely something that we saw happen, where you had people like JP Morgan and some of those other top banks who were directing who was going to merge with who and making sure that they would get benefits if they did. That's just how the rigged Wall Street game works. Now, despite the interventions, getting back to the article here, global banks have axed the most jobs since the global financial crisis. New report from the Financial Times shows 20 of the world's largest banks slashed 61,905 jobs in 2023. It goes on to say a move to protect profit margins in a period of high interest rates amid a slump in deal making in equity and debt sales. This compared with the 140,000 lost during the GFC of 2007 to 08. So as we could see, not quite the number of 2007, 2008, but still significant and something that we should be paying attention to. Now, again, don't fear, don't worry. We'll get to that. We keep going. Global banks cut more than 60,000 jobs in 2023, with the top ones hitting UBS, Credit Suisse, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, with Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, and Goldman Sachs following, bringing up that rear of the top groups, and then you can kind of see the rest from there. The UBS Credit Suisse one, of course, that was a forced buyout to forced migration, where there's a couple who were basically bidding for it, but come to find out they were forced into buying it. And of course, what do? Well, you can't take on that many extra jobs because you're not doing so hot yourself. So you merge, take on the accounts, and you release pardon my words, but the dead weight or the people who are taking salaries. So you just stack extra accounts onto the workers that you already have, increasing their jobs or their workload and not paying them anymore. That's usually what happens in this area. And that's why we see that they're the top dogs when it comes to firing people. I know I may be coming off as, little callous, a little stern on this, but this is what's happening. Obviously, people losing their jobs is not good in any way, and we need to be praying not only that they find some stability somewhere else, but also through this, if they don't know the Lord Jesus, that they'll use this opportunity to receive salvation through Him and lean on Him during these difficult times. So keep that in mind. Now, if we finish off this article, it goes on to say there is no stability, no investment, no growth in most banks, and there are likely to be more job cuts, said Lee Thacker, owner of the financial services headhunting firm Silvermine Partners. Financial Times noted that corporate disclosure data and its independent reporting did not include smaller regional bank cuts, indicating total job loss could be much higher. Ooh, okay, that's not good. At least half of the job cuts come from Wall Street lenders struggling with Western central banks' most aggressive interest rate hikes in a generation. The most significant cut of any bank was Switzerland's UBS. Of course, we just talked about that merger and usually what happens. Now it concludes saying the revenues aren't there, so this is partly a response to overexpansion, but there's also simpler explanation: political cost cutting. Us who are in the prophecy realm and what we're watching, we understand they're getting ready for a collapse, global collapse, in order to bring in the new digital system that they want to do, which we've been watching all of the creation and adoption of digital IDs and wallets, as well as central bank digital currencies and all these things. So obviously, he's not going to get into that on the article, but just thought I'd fill that in there. Says Gaurav Arora, global head of competitor analytics at Coalition, warned we expect full year 2024 to be a continuation of the story of 2023. So they're planning on major layoffs and firings again. Goes on to say we see banks getting more conservative, or concluded. No surprise there. No surprise there. And again, we've been watching this. We understand what's going on. We understand the plan. We may not know exactly how they plan on getting to it, but we understand what the finished product, so to say, is going to be, which is the one world economy that the Antichrist is going to have for his beast system. That's one of the three pillars of the one world economy, the one world government, and the one world religion. And so we understand, in order to bring in the new, in order to completely revamp a one world economy, you have to destroy what's already there. And right now, even though we are in no good shape at all, the US dollar is still the one that's holding everything together right now. I know there's all the talks of the BRICS and all these things, but it's still the US dollar that's holding things together. And ultimately, that's got to go. And again, I've talked about how there's been high people in high places, including the Rothschilds and whatnot, who have talked about, and Soros, who have talked about 2011 and earlier, how there's going to be a slow collapse of the US dollar, a controlled collapse, with China being the engine behind it, and it's going to bring it down. And this has to do with bringing countries down on the equal playing field so they can introduce all these things, as well as get rid of the fiat currencies that we have globally in order to bring in the digital. This is just what's going to happen. How, when, we don't know. There's a lot of speculation out there. And again, like in 2023, there's people out there going, it's here, the crash is here, the collapse is here. And it wasn't. There's a few times when I was looking at it and I was going, man, this could definitely be it. I was fooled too. So I'm not calling anybody out on that one. I was fooled myself. But the thing is we all know the saying of it's slow, it goes slowly, and then all at once. Well, we're still in the slowly part, even though when we saw some of those banks crash, we were like, here it comes all at once. It's coming, but it never did. But they're preparing for it. Now, I said we need to not fear, we need to not panic, we need to not worry, we need to be encouraged by what we're seeing with this, because Again, the worse the world gets, the closer we are to going home. And when we look in places like Matthew 24, when it's talking about the days of Noah, then we'll be raptured. At that point, we will be taken. And during the days of Noah, the Bible again goes on to talk about how everybody's just going about their daily lives, eating, drinking, marrying, and all these things. And if there is a global financial crash, people will not be going about their daily lives. As weird and abnormal as it is right now, it's still relatively normal. People all over the world, the majority are still just going about their daily lives. And so at any moment, because the Bible talks about the doctrine of imminence, we're going to be taken out of here. Now, if we start seeing a global financial crash start working its way up, which we're seeing that build now, we understand we're in the season and the Lord is going to come. When exactly? We don't know. But I tend to hold to what the Bible says about the days of Noah, and we're living in those times right now. So be encouraged by this. Don't worry. Don't panic because it says, don't fear, don't panic, don't worry. And when life is going as normal, we're going to get taken out of here. So, when is the financial crash coming? Is it going to be this year? Could be. I'm not going to sit here and predict anything. Sure seems like 2024 is heading for a crazy year, that's for sure. So it could definitely happen, but I still think before the giant collapse comes and changes the entire world, a world-changing event like a financial crash, we're going to be taken out of here first. So that's what I'm holding my hat on to. I trust in the Lord. I suggest you do the same.